Okay, so welcome back. Now we'll have a presentation by Yashim Yaprak Yildiz, London University.
University of Cambridge.
Yeah, University of Cambridge. And it's titled The Relation Between Politics of Memory in Turkey and
Actually, yeah, I should have corrected that title. I don't know why it is there, but the correct title is Confessions of a Turkish Policeman on Past State Violence, The Path from Truth to Reconciliation.
Yeah, and your reviewer will be Professor Kastitis Antonakis.
Thanks very much for the invitation. Before starting, I should say that actually this is not my PhD thesis. This is a parallel research that I'm continuing, and it might, my original PhD might culminate in a journal article, and I might continue with this research. We will see. So any feedback, comments are really well appreciated, because this is quite a work in progress, and I recently started. In this paper, I aim to discuss the relation between truth and reconciliation by analyzing the confessions of a former Turkish policeman who took part in killings and disappearances of Kurdish civilians during early 1990s in Turkey. This is a time when the conflict between Turkish army and the Kurdish armed group PKK was at its peak. The question I would like to explore is to what extent the truth about past atrocities could lead to a societal reconciliation. So confessions by perpetrators of human rights violations play an important role in post-conflict situations. While they provide facts and evidences about the past atrocities, which would help investigation and prosecution processes, they also have the potential to enable public debate about the past. Acknowledging the importance of knowing the truth for personal healing and justice, this paper aims to put into question the conditions in which truth about the past can lead to societal reconciliation. I will discuss this issue through the confessions of Ayhan Çarkın, a former policeman within the Special Operations Team in Turkey, which has been at the center of gross human rights violations in Turkey against Kurdish civilians during the 30-year-long conflict, mainly in the Kurdish region. So through an analysis of Çarkın's confessions, its impact on the general public, and its contribution to the judicial processes, I aim to discuss the workings of power in such confessions and their limitations in leading to peace and reconciliation. So the issue of knowing the truth about past atrocities has been extensively discussed as part of Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, either through their inadequacies or limitations in helping coming to terms with the past, or as successful mechanisms of justice in post-conflict situations. So the most important example, as we all know, is South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where the perpetrators received amnesty in exchange for confessing to political violence. There are also examples from Latin American countries like Argentina and Chile, where again perpetrators of state violence made confessions. The case of Turkey, though, differs from these examples because such confessions neither emerged as part of transitional justice apparatus or other legal and political mechanisms. Unlike these examples, despite the number of massacres and gross human rights violations in its past, Turkey has yet to start a process to come to terms with its past. There has neither been judicial mechanisms nor social or political mechanisms aiming to account for past atrocities. While there have been criminal investigations into past human rights violations, they only focused on specific individual cases without revealing the full context of such violations. In general, behind the idea of truth commissions lies a general understanding that truth encourages social healing and reconciliation. It restores trust in wounded societies, promotes justice, helps the formation of official records, it helps promote democracy, or it deters future atrocities. We could also see this in Desmond Tutu's statements in relation to South African TRC, that healing could only begin once the disclosure of painful truths about the past had taken place. In such approaches, there is a linear link between confession and reconciliation. As Claire Moon argues, the processes intrinsic to the confessional are linked in a linear and causal way, starting with the recognition of a concealed or repressed truth, and ending with a regretful admission of accountability or responsibility. Foucault's genealogy of confession challenges this general assumption that confession is a human need, or that there is a psychological compulsion to confess. For him, confession is not an ahistorical response to an innate psychological need or a continual and unshifting discipline. It has rather a complex and long history. So he demonstrates the differences between Christian confession and ancient and medieval penitential practices, and how Christian confession was initially met with resistance. And through that, he shows the transformation of the understanding of confession from antiquity to the modern society. So according to Foucault, confession has been inscribed into the human body as an external coercion, and it has been internalized as desire and inner compulsion. By producing disciplined subjects, confession reproduces power. Against the assumption that confessions are expressions of free and rational decisions, for Foucault, all confessions are coercive because they are products of disciplinary power, and that all truths produced through confessions are products of this power and thus not free. Since the obligation to confess has been deeply internalized by the modern human being, the workings of power and discipline in it is not visible, and it seems natural and healing. So such a note on the concept of confession is crucial for the aim of this paper, since the confessions of perpetrators on past atrocities in Turkey also are generally seen as free and rational decisions of perpetrators, or as having a reconciliatory and healing effect. So acknowledging the political importance of revelation of truth about past atrocities, this paper would like to emphasize different workings of power in political confessions, which can limit their reconciliatory potential and reproduce the official discourse. So, I will very briefly introduce Ayhan Çarkın, that policeman. He is a police officer trained in special warfare. He worked in both Kurdish region in Turkey and in other major cities, mainly against Kurdish political activists and far left-wing Marxist groups. So he was involved in operations against prominent Kurdish politicians and Kurdish businessmen mainly, who were allegedly providing financial support to the PKK. Çarkın first came to public prominence through following a traffic accident in Susurluk. This is known as Susurluk scandal in Turkey. And this accident, the importance of this accident comes from the fact that it revealed the relations between mafia, police, and the government in Turkey. Because the car was carrying the deputy chief of Istanbul police, an MP, and also a former leader of a big mafia. And they were on their way back from a visit to the interior minister. And following this accident, there has been a parliamentary investigation, and several criminal investigations were opened as well. And Çarkın was also arrested as part of that. And he gave his first media interview in 2002 after he was released from prison. Although this interview contains certain confessions about his involvement in summary execution cases, these are not yet remorseful confessions. Rather, they are like statements of a former policeman who is angry with his prosecution and who feels abandoned by the state. So the confessions I would like to analyze in this paper were made in March 2011. Çarkın was noticed by the journalists when he attended Nevroz celebration. It's a Kurdish spring festival, but it's hugely politicized. He attended this rally with his family, and after the journalists noticed him, they interviewed him, and he basically he made quite important confessions about extrajudicial killings in 1990s. I'm quoting. He says, "I was part of the first special operations team composed of 320 people sent to the southeast in 1986. I stayed in the region until 1990. Terrible things were done to those people. When we were in a village, we saw that an officer is beating a man naked in the middle of the village in front of his children. What kind of mentality is this to beat a Kurd naked, saying that he supports the PKK? This is not what counter-terrorism is. This was betrayal. I saw that warplanes were used against these people. Artilleries, tanks, mines were used. This fire will burn us all. We made them eat shit. We pulled out their nails. We banned their language. We did this. We need to apologize from Kurds. Now there are mass graves everywhere. Either call them terrorists or guerrillas. These mass graves are this country's disgrace." So the most important aspect of his confessions is the acknowledgement of a massacre in a village called Pınarcık. This is very crucial because this massacre in Turkey was the main reason why the leader of the PKK was caught as baby killer in the mainstream media, because there were several children, like 16 children, including babies, killed in that village. And Charkan, in his confessions, also acknowledges that it was actually a paramilitary group within the state who conducted this massacre rather than the PKK. And following this newspaper interview, Charkan also appeared in prominent TV shows, and he also confessed that Kurdish businessmen were also killed with the authorization of the state. Then Prime Minister Tansu Çiller, she actually made a statement saying that there are certain Kurdish businessmen who are supporting the PKK, and they've got the list and the state will respond to them. And the killing started just after this statement. When he was asked why he is confessing now, Charkan stated that, "I went to Nevruz with my wife, my children and friends. I went there as a Turk and as a murderer. I went to the platform and asked them to allow me to talk. What makes me speak now is my conscience. I want to free myself from the darkness inside me. I'm calling on my colleagues. You should also come out and tell what you know. We have to speak out." Following his confessions, a Kurdish MP from the main opposition party, who is also a member of Parliamentary Human Rights Commission, met him in the prison and had a 4-hour interview with him, and he submitted his interview to the parliament as well. And in this interview, Charkan says that his internal questioning started after he saw the pictures of the 3 victims he knows about in a Saturday Mothers meeting. So Saturday Mothers is quite similar to Mothers of Plaza del Mayo. They gather in central Taksim since 1995 to demand justice for the disappeared. So, looking at the political and legal consequences of Charkan's confessions, I mean, these confessions appeared in all newspapers of the time. There were debates in TV shows, and shortly after his confessions about the killings, a criminal investigation was opened. Charkan and a number of other police officers were arrested. As the investigation deepened, senior officials and politicians have also been called by the prosecutor